So, doing something a little different for this video, also in a different location. I've got the area I normally use over in the other room is currently tied up for other things, including our cameras. So I'm using, funny enough, the UR100, which is the big, bad, waterproof, includes a windshield wiper version of the usual Panasonic PTZ I use, which is kind of funny. So today we're not doing Unreal related things, but rather we're looking at sort of HTML graphics and a solution that maybe isn't well talked about, or maybe it is and I'm just unaware, but I thought this was really nice. So we're using Rive. Now Rive is a real-time vector render engine, I guess is probably how they started. You know, things like card HUDs for all the fancy dials and stuff like that, and a lot of interactive web, which makes it perfect for HTML related graphics. So HTML related graphics are exactly that. Your usual graphics, like a lower third, which is what we'll be looking at today, but done in HTML so that it can be rendered much easier to then be put on a broadcast. So I'm going to look at how, and I've developed a tool to help you do this with Rive. So we're going to be looking at how to use that along with CasparCG and some Blackmagic equipment. So from a hardware standpoint, we have the ATEM, Constellation 2ME 20 input switcher. This is just my stand-in for any SDI broadcast switcher, because don't have a Grass Valley on hand, I'm afraid. Instead of a camera feed, I've just got down the front here a hyperdeck with just some looping footage I took while I was in Brooklyn the other day. And for output, we're using a Blackmagic Ultra Studio 4K. Just thunderbolted to my PC. Now Caspar works with NDI, which we'll look at soon. Technically HDMI, which we'll also look at. It also works with Blackmagic, Bluefish, and Deltacast or Azure, one of those. So you've got a couple of options for outputting. So now that we've sort of sorted the hardware, I'm also going to be looking at a little later a potential way to use it with the ATEM Mini Pros, the HDMI ones, because obviously I'm not sure if they can do key and fill, but you kind of don't want to burn two HDMI inputs doing graphics, because then you've only got two left for cameras, kind of pointless. So we'll have a look at that a little later. So first of all, Rive itself. So I've got and I'll show it here. So I've got a sample you can download. It's not too pretty, but shows all the basics. And you can remix and download and alter this in any way you like, straight from the Rive marketplace. And you even don't, now you can just hit the download button here, and then we could just save it to the desktop. It's going to download a .riv file. I'm also going to get rid of the numbers at the start. So you can try this immediately without, you can try this, oh, that's fine. You can try this immediately without even knowing how the Rive editor works. And I'm going to be building a kind of almost portfolio, I guess, of a couple of different graphics for you to use, published free for the marketplace. You can look at them, remix them, and everything. Now the basics of how this graphic is set up is everything runs through what's called the view model. So I have a view model here. So if I go to the animate mode and then select, so I have two artboards. I have this one up here, which is just the graphic itself. And then I have the one down here, which is kind of its placement inside a 16:9 frame. And that's the one we care about. Now, Rive runs using state machines, which is very similar to Unreal, which is why it becomes a very powerful tool for this. So in my view model, I have, so I could just hit play actually, and then hit in. So I have an in and an out trigger to trigger the in and out animations. Nothing too complex with the animations, but that's fine. I've got the name, where it says initial value, the drop line, the color behind the logo itself, which I'll show you how to use in Caspar, and then the scale of the logo. So if you have kind of logos that are larger or smaller than what I've used here, you can tweak them. So either if you're using the editor, you can hit export up here. Otherwise, you can just download it directly from the marketplace here, and I'll put a link for this in the video description. But that gives us a .riv, RIV, drops the E, file. Now this, my computer shows that it's openable with Windows, but it's actually a binary file, so I can't see its contents. That's fine. Now we need something to do with this. So what I'm going to use is CasparCG. So if you haven't heard of CasparCG, it's a really handy tool for outputting videos and images and audio and sort of effects. You know, you can take in a video and transform it and scale it and rotate it and output it again. You can do all sorts of stuff in Caspar, and I really should make a video on just how to use Caspar. But it's a great handy little broadcast tool for all those little niche things, especially, you know, if you don't have replay servers or something like that. Maybe you only have one hyperdeck or no hyperdecks and you want to use this to output video. That's easy. You know, use it as a replay engine, use it as a video engine, whatever you want. It's split into two parts, the server and the client. Now the server can run multiple instances on multiple different PCs. It can output multiple channels, I guess you could say, multiple video, if you have a device that supports that. The client is sort of how you control those and orchestrate everything, and you can use one to connect to multiple engines. They don't have to be on the same PC or anything. Now, I will be using it on the same PC just for the sake of simplicity here, but you don't have to. So I'm just going to download the server version. And I'm going to make the terrible decision to save it directly to the desktop. And then I'm also going to download the client and also the desktop. So once I have that, I can extract these and we can do a little test to just see that this works. So I can extract here, WinRAR, extract here. The unsung hero, isn't it? Alright, so now that I have these two things, we can get started. So the Caspar server is what we're going to focus on first. So if I just launch the Caspar server here, Windows is going to pretend like it saved you some horrible death. That's fine. It's going to launch, and by default it launches in PAL standard, so 50 FPS, 720p as a screen. Now I can test this is working by typing a ACMP command directly in, so I can say play channel 1, layer 1, and then I could just go in quotation marks like google.com. Oh, do I need to have to specify? There we go. I need to specify that it was trying to load a HTML and not like a video file. So that's working fine. Now, I'm going to go ahead and type exit into this and close it. Now, how do we make this output to our switcher here? So the easiest way for that is to, well, the only way I should say, is we edit the Caspar config here. So I'm going to use Notepad C++, Notepad++, no C in there, to edit the config. And you can see it looks daunting. It's an XML file, but it's really not that difficult. So first of all, we have some paths to where our things are stored. Now this templates folder is where we're going to be keeping our Rive files. If you wanted this to be on, say, a shared drive, you could edit this directory so that, say, you have a fleet of engines, they could all read the same templates off a shared drive. The channels here is our outputs. So the outer channels contains all the channels, and then the channel part of it specifies that particular channel. So I could duplicate this block to have 2-channel output. Now for video mode, I'm going to change this to 1080p 5994 because that's the standard. Whoa, 15. Whoa. There we go. 1080p 5994. That's the standard that our ATEM is running in. For consumers, I don't particularly care for the computer screen itself. So instead, I'm going to scroll down here, and if we have a look, basically this green section, it's a comment technically, that it shows you every possible thing you could enter into the file. So what I want to do is I want to scroll down a little bit, and I'm going to find under consumers is my DeckLink device. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy from the first DeckLink to the closed DeckLink here, and I'm going to paste that into the consumers. Now this also looks daunting, but I actually don't need 99% of this, so I'm going to start by removing all the ports things. The wait for reference, that's fine. The sub-region, I don't want to kind of crop on this. The video mode, I don't plan to run the device. I don't plan to run my DeckLink, or I should say technically it's an Ultra Studio, but it means DeckLink means Blackmagic. I don't plan to run it at a video frame rate that's different to the project. That's fine. The buffer I don't care about. I don't want to do key only. Keyer, I do want to keep that in here because we do want key and fill. So I'll leave that. The latency I don't really care about. Embedded audio I don't really care about, and key device I don't care about because I'm not trying to do the key channel on a different device. So after that's all said and done, we have 2 things in here. So device, I'm going to use number 1. It's the only device on here. I could open desktop video and show you. It's the only device there. And for the keyer, I want external. So for the Ultra Studios, they have an A and a B output on the back. A is fill, B is key. So the key channel is a black and white channel that tells downstream equipment like the ATEM what to be transparent and what not to be. So there's a few modes Caspar has. External is one of them. Internal is another. That means you put the video in, it'll overlay it and then give you like a dirty feed out. You could also just turn it off if you don't care for the key channel. Now I need to just double check some settings in the Ultra Studio. So I need to make sure that we're using level A and that it's single link. Level A is how you transmit 1080p signals. I believe the basics are level A means full frames, level B means 2 interlaced frames. So that if you plugged it into some interlaced equipment, I guess, it might pick it up. And then dual link and single link, again, is like, is this going over 1 cable or is this going over 2 cables? Again, if you're using really old equipment. We're not using either, so that's why I changed that as such. So now that I have my config done, I'm going to save that, and I'm going to restart it. So I should just be able to, it says Ultra Studio 4K Mini, reference signal not detected. That's fine, I don't have reference. Ideally, you do use reference, but for this demo, I'm not using it because I don't want to drag an SDI cable out from forever away. Play 1, channel 1, layer 1, HTML, google.com. So you don't see anything happen there, but on our video switcher you can see, and I can show you because I'm recording it. Yep. So if I go to channel 19 is my fill, so we've got Google, and channel 20 is my key, which I think that controlled ME, the wrong ME there, and then there's the fill. My bad. I skipped ahead in the tutorial a little bit. Cool. That's now working. That's 1080p. That's fine. So now, if I go ahead and I Google HTML graphics for CasparCG, there's a couple of tutorials about how to make them. There's like a big guide on how to do all that. The great thing about Rive is they have a API for their web runtime that you can query the contents of a Rive file, which means I can programmatically generate a HTML template for Caspar without you manually typing a thing. That's where this comes in. Oops. That's where this comes in. This is on my GitHub. It's published as a GitHub page, but you can also just see the source code of this. It runs completely in the front end. There's no server or anything like that. So for security reasons, or if you're worried about, you're worried about giving away, you create a design and that's for the client. There's NDAs and stuff. Won't upload it anywhere. That's fine. So the way it works is pretty straightforward. So first of all, we're going to select our .riv file, like so. So it's loaded, simple lower third. Next, I'm going to choose an artboard. So you remember we have two here. We have the graphic itself, and then the 16:9 one, which is its position in a 16:9 frame. Which apparently doesn't show up. Alright, so the problem is that when I downloaded it through this interface, it has only downloaded the master, this artboard, this L3 one, not the 16:9 one, which is a bit of a problem. So instead, I'm just going to export it directly here. If I figure out how to publish it so that the 16:9 one is the main one, I will do that. Otherwise, I'll also just provide a download for the .riv file. Anyway. Now, if I do that, we can see we now get 16:9, we get a state machine, I've only got one. And then it shows us all the properties in that. So I've got a logo scale, it's a number, it's default to 17. I've got a logo, it's an image type, it has nothing. Color, doesn't show hex color in here, I don't know what that is. Dropline, string, that, and then triggers. Now, we have a couple of settings here at the bottom. First of all, what runtime you want to do. So Rive ships with two runtimes, a Canvas one and a WebGL one. Now, I'd recommend WebGL 90% of the times. However, there are some limitations with how many WebGL instances can be playing at the same time. And you may run into compatibility problems with it. Canvas is a good fallback. The reason it's not auto-selected is because it requires you to add an additional line in the CasparCG config, otherwise it won't load at all. So I'm going to do WebGL. Next, would you like to embed the Rive inside the file? So there's pros and cons to this workflow. What this does is encodes the Rive file as a base 64, so you only need the .html file to play the graphics. That's really good for portability, and if you're handing them around or emailing them or doing something with the file, you don't have to worry about getting like the .rive file getting lost or separated from the HTML. It's all enclosed. The problem is if you're iterating a lot, especially on design, not controls, because controls are stored inside the HTML file, but if you're iterating on the design, having to re-export a new HTML every time you create an update just to check it on a device could be problematic. So that's the option there. I'm going to leave it turned on just to show you the difference. It'll also make the HTML file, so take the size of the Rive file, increase it by 30%, and add that to the HTML file, and that's the file size. Now the .rive files are not big. That's 700 kilobytes, but the HTML file is probably only going to be 20 kilobytes, so that will add a lot to it. If you worry about, again, we're talking 2 megabytes, unless you have a really, really complicated Rive file. But even things like removing unnecessary PNG assets and stuff from the Rive file will keep it small. Next, we have the in trigger, the out trigger, and the next trigger. So Caspar allows you to do ins, outs, and continues, basically, for graphics. So the graphic doesn't just live there. It'll actually animate in, animate out, and if it has a change, you can do that as well. So here we select that, so in and out. Next, I'm going to just hit Caspar download. and you can see it's downloading a HTML file. I'm going to put that straight into our templates folder. Now the other thing is there's an XML file here, and I'm going to download that as well, and I'll show you what that's for in a minute. I'm just going to put that on the desktop. So we can have a look at the HTML generated file if you want. So if we open it in Notepad, so we have, so you can see this Rive B64. This is the base 64, which is a way of encoding binary files as letters and numbers, and it is very, 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 very big. Which is funny, but that is the Rive file we well, you didn't technically upload it anywhere, but the Rive file that we selected. The rest is just setting up the controls for Caspar, which is done for you automatically. So now that I have it there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit Start CasparCG. I'm also going to scroll down, and there's this device called Scanner, and this just scans the resources inside Caspar. You know, so if I put wave audio files, PNGs, HTML stuff, it'll pick up on that and display it in the front end. So now that I have those two, I'm going to go ahead and open the client next. The client needs no configure. It's all GUI based. It's not command line, which is, if you don't like command line, that's fine. That's great. Okay, hit allow, and this is what it looks like. And then if we hit under library, refresh library, you noticed under templates we now have our simple lower third we just made. Now you may remember I had mentioned that if we use WebGL, we need to change a Caspar setting, and I forgot to do that. So in Caspar, I am going to just type exit and close it. The scanner is completely separate, so you don't need to close that. And then in the config, which I think is already open in Notepad, yep. So at the top, you'll notice here it is. So this HTML block we're going to need, and then that can go straight after paths. Now, I don't need to remote debug it, so I can turn that off. I don't need a specific backend for it, and I don't really care about the cache, although you may want to try that. This enable-GPU is what we want, and we want to turn that to true, and that basically tells it's Chromium embedded that, hey, use the graphics card. And that will prevent any WebGL errors from occurring. You could probably just leave it on anyway, even if you use the Canvas version. It's really not that bad. So I can just drag this across. I can hit F. So the playout controls are here. They tell you, so load is F3, play is F2, and stop, which is also take out, is F1. So hit F3, and then hit F2, and you'll see on program, we have looks like the key channel. Let me go into the ATEM, switch that there. There we go. So now, how do it just says initial value, it has a random image as the logo, it says dropline. What on earth do I do with that? And this is where, so basically in here you enter in all your values, but this is where that XML that I downloaded before, the one here, basically I can go file, import preset, and then on the desktop I can click that. Now if I close templates and instead use presets down here, we see we also have it. If I drag it over, I'm going to have to choose a service. I'll choose localhost. It has pre-entered all our information in here. So I can then go ahead and I could change the dropline to say Unreal Expert. I know we're not doing Unreal. And then the name will be Aiden Wilson. Now, while you're editing these values and you already have a graphic up, you can hit F6 on the keyboard, and that will apparently do nothing. Oh, you know what? Because it's a different template. So F3, F2, to play in. Now I'm Aiden Wilson, Unreal Expert. So now I could say broadcast graphics. So rather than taking this out and then back in again, I can hit F6 and it's just updated. So we have a logo on here. So what do we do with that? So the logo value accepts any address you can access from a web browser, I guess. Because of CORS, which is cross origin resource something, you probably won't be able to just copy a PNG file path and paste it in there. It just won't work. You need to host it on a server. It could be a local server, like Python has a built-in HTTP server you could use to serve images. Otherwise, we can just find any random thing. So I'm going to take the Rive logo here. I've just Googled it, and then I'm going to go copy image address. And so long as when you paste that, it shows an image like that, then I can use that web address directly in here. So I can just paste it like that. And then I hit F6. And now we've got the Rive logo. And you know what? Maybe it's too big, so I'm going to change it to 15. And hit F6 again. Oh, that's still pretty big. Let's try 10. Oh, that's kind of small now. 12. This is based on 100% of the image size in pixels. There we go, that looks better. And I kind of want the color to be nicer, so I think I'm just going to do all white, like so, and then hit F6 again, and so now it's on a... So if I hit F12 to clear the channel, F3, and then F2, we now have an image. Isn't that lovely? So we also have a key channel. So if I go here and I send that up, you can see the drop line has transparency to it, so we can use transparency and all that. So the next question is, if I go back to camera 1 on my ATEM, how do I use this in the ATEM? So basically, the ATEM, depending on the version you have, the 10 input one has 2 upstream keys, the 20 input has 4, technically 8 if you count both MEs. They also have a downstream keyer, but we'll just use the upstream keyer because it's a bit easier to use. So basically, and your wiring is up to you. So I've got the key, the fill in 19 and the key in 20. So in the upstream key source, we've got a couple of different ways here. I'm just going to do Luma, and then I'm going to choose my fill source is 19 and my key source is 20. And this is pre-multiply. Pre-multiply means if it's on black or not, essentially. That's an oversimplification, but for our purposes, it is on black, so that's fine. So now that we have that, what I can do is I can just hit the key on air, and you can see now I've got the key overlaid over the top, including a little bit of transparency, which is nice. So same thing, if I hit F1, it'll animate out, then I could hit F3, and then you wait for the director to say insert animate, and then you hit F2, and then it animates it. Probably should have put that PTZ in the switcher, because a lower third would make more sense for that. Maybe I'll just change this to say Brooklyn NYC. Is that how you spell Brooklyn? Let's Google that real quick. No, it is not. There's 2 O's. Of course there is. Nighttime, there we go. Alright. Clear it, F3, F2. Ta-da! It's kind of silly. And then the great thing about this is I can drag another preset out, and then I could change this to be the broadcast graphics. Woo, graphics. And then Rive. And you know what? Let's steal the Rive logo from there and paste it in here. Make the color all Fs. Like so, and then we need to change this to the colors. There we go. So I can, so I could animate that one out, select this one, load it, animate it in. We can create, a rundown, hence its name, you save this out as well, of the entire show of different graphics. And that's the beauty of using this software like that. basically, so the graphic's on right now, and I could switch to a different camera, cut, and it'll keep the graphic there. So that's called switching under the graphic, so the graphic stays there. If I hit this key button, you'll see it didn't actually affect the what's on program, but on preview the key is now missing. I wonder if I can put... Alright, essentially it's missing on the preview is the point I'm trying to get at. So then if I hit, say, auto, it'll fade just the graphic out. So then, you know, I think the thing here is if you didn't want to use its animation and just wanted to make it disappear at the next camera cut, you could, or make it reappear. If I hit the untick the key and then hit auto, it's going to transition under the graphic. Cool. One other thing that's probably worth noting is the layer system. So you can see these both say video layer 10, but if I switch that to video layer 5, then I can actually insert that, and you saw it animate in there. And I could sort of grab a transform property on that one, the localhost on layer number 5, and then I could kind of use this to, there it is, move this up a bit if I wanted to, but I can sort of put multiple graphics thanks to this on it. F12 will clear the entire channel, so all of them will disappear. Cool.